term limits is only part of the answer. We also need
Yeah,
more
this is Michael
congressmen, smaller districts. What else you got, Michael?
Second Thought here at Freedom Fest in Las Vegas, and I am here with
Doug Ginsberg,
and you are a sitting federal judge for?
the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit.
Wow. And you have been in 3 forums today here, and what are the topics that you've been mostly covering?
Well, we're showing parts of the 3 episodes that are coming out on public television, the title of which is, for the series of which is A More or Less Perfect Union, all about the Constitution.
Okay. And I guess much of what you guys have been talking about is the administrative state and the reach of the power of the federal government.
In part, yes, because it's through the administrative agencies that the federal government has not only expanded its reach, but combined the authorities of executive, judicial, and legislative powers in one body.
And that, certainly flies in the face of the separation of powers, at least one of the tenets our founders were kind of keen on.
James Madison said that the combination of those powers was the very essence of tyranny.
And that's Federalist Papers, is that correct?
That's right.
And I heard part of it, you got in some of the cases that were key on these issues.
We talked about a few cases, sure.
So touched upon Wickford versus Filburn.
Well, that's a key case in terms of the court's interpretation of the commerce power. The court, I think, had already established that matters affecting commerce, not just commerce itself, could be regulated by the Congress, but they gave even that an expansive interpretation when they said that growing the wheat and feeding it to one's own cattle, or the grain, I should say, and feeding it to one's own cattle affected commerce, even though there was no transaction involved, no purchasing and selling, nothing moving across interstate lines, of course. And that affected commerce sufficiently to be subject to federal regulation.
So if I can go with your interpretation, and take it to the end, potentially one individual trying to grow, so you said wheat, let's say apples, and if Congress had made a law saying that they couldn't do that, potentially Congress could say that you couldn't grow apples in your own backyard.
Well, they've since have actually said something similar in the Affordable Care Act, with regard to the obligation to have insurance. Okay. That was upheld on the ground that, 4 of the justices of the 5 who thought it was constitutional thought that was a matter affecting commerce. Your failure to buy insurance was affecting commerce.
And being that this is the Freedom Fest, where there's certainly a very libertarian feeling, let's just say, sure, there's plenty of people here that would feel that was a concern to them.
That it was a mistake, I think most people here would think. I think it was a mistake myself.
Yeah.
And it's one that is now somewhat at risk of being reversed simply because the 5th vote was provided by the Chief Justice based on the taxing power, and now the Congress, I guess, has rescinded the tax. And so what basis is there now for upholding the statute, the Affordable Care Act? We'll find out.
Yeah, and isn't there a case in Texas right now on this topic?
That's right. It hasn't been decided even at the Court of Appeals level, but eventually will probably go back to the Supreme Court.
But the trial judge, he made a ruling indicating he's striking at the root of it.
I think that's correct. I think it's been argued in the circuit and the appellate court, and the judges showed a real interest in the matter, according to the press.
And we're waiting with bated breath to see what they do.
Well, we're waiting anyway.
All right. Very thought-provoking.
Well, thank you. Good to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. And appreciate your interview. And thank you very much. And back to you in the studio, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Michael. I wish I had put it in your ear to ask him about the original hidden 13th Amendment of 1812. I would have liked to have heard his answer. But